Qualitative risk is probability times impact. Quantitative risk is probability times impact. The difference between the two is in quantitative risk, the impact is expressed in dollars. You can express it in dollars or time, but qualitative risk is just what's the probability, what's the impact, and then we get a percentage. All right, so that's the difference between the two. We want to qualify this risk. Will it really happen? Right, and once we get to that point, then we can figure out how much it will cost. So we qualify it first, we quantify it second. So we'll take the risk register that we just created as an input, and we'll use these tools and techniques. We'll analyze the data, and then we'll represent it. And the whole goal is to update the risk register and update the risk report. That's all we're really doing here. It's like we're further. If I go back here, what we're really doing now in this process is now we're trying to determine what's the probability, and this column would say what's the impact, and we had a column here to give us a percentage, and then a column here that would say score, right? And then if you think about that as an Excel spreadsheet, then you could sort it and then just go and look at the most high level risk, right? Next year, that's like a what's the PMI term for that? Is why is it? It's escaping me. It's going to come back to me. But that's what we're doing in this process now. We're further building out the risk register. So sorry, I went too far. All right, so here we are here. All right, so we're updating. That's the key outputs here. We're updating the risk report, and now we're looking at the probability and the impact. We may nominate a risk owner. We may, but the exam is definitely looking at probability times impact. That is the definition of qualitative risk analysis. We're also going to update this risk report. All right, so we take the risk register, we take those risks itself, along with any EEFs and OPAs. In this case, EEFs would be like if we need to adhere to some regulations or industry standards, and then OPAs here would be like if the company has a specific probability and impact matrix that they want you to use, or if you just had a template that you have access to. But these would be the key inputs that you would use, and then you would analyze that data. You would do a risk probability and impact assessment by using a probability and impact matrix like this. Okay, I'm going to come back to the risk data quality assessment. But the risk probability and impact assessment, right, that act of doing that, if that is the technique, the tool is the probability and impact matrix. And here it is. I believe this is page 480 something in the PMBOK. You guys don't have copies of the PMBOK yet, though. Okay. But you have the chart here, so nonetheless, yes, you don't need the PMBOK. So it's right here. So here's the idea. Here's some stuff I want you to write on. Okay, good. We just got enough juice so I can jump on, because there's some specific words. Uh-oh. What'd I do here? All right, get that out. Cancel. Back here. Play. Okay, draw. But it's not coming in, so maybe I'll just tell you. There we go. Okay. So the risks that are here in this lightest shade of gray here at the bottom that score very low on a probability and impact matrix, all right? These risks we passively accept, right? You want to write the word passive acceptance. We passively accept. We put them on a watch list. Those are the two terms I want you to know. All right, and that's for all the risk. That's for all the risks that happen in this little area here. All right, anything from what's the probability that somebody's going to show up late to the project? Oh, very high, more than 90% chance. What's the impact? Very low. Okay, so that's what we do, right? All the way from there down to here, right? We put these on the watch list. So we passively accept. We put them on a watch list. Okay. These threats here that happen in this middle shade of gray from 0.09, right, kind of down here all the way to 0.08. These ones we actively accept. All right, so active acceptance, we actively accept. We put contingency reserves away for those. Contingency, so actively accepting a risk. I'm saying, you know what, I think this is going to happen, and I'll just put away some money just in case it does. I got some money, you know, we can take care of it. That's actively accepting. A lot of times that's described as mitigating a risk, and that is not mitigating a risk. That's just accepting the risk, saying we think it's going to happen, right? Passive acceptance says, yeah, if it happens, it happens. We know it might happen. You could just put that on the watch list. You don't do anything about it. And then these risks that we see here, right? These are the most, these are the highest level of threats. We mitigate those threats, right? That's what we do with these threats here. We mitigate these threats. We take some action or activity to minimize the probability and or the impact. Right? So, when you're taking the exam, I want you to be careful for the language. I want you to watch out for the language. If they describe the fact that you and your team are actively, you're doing something, you've changed some activities, right? It's not going to be about money. It's going to be about some actions. And you're doing that to minimize the impact or minimize the probability that this risk is going to happen, then that's mitigation. If you're simply putting away money, that's actively accepting. That's active acceptance. If you're just like, all right, so when we go through and we do reserve analysis, when we estimate cost and when we estimate durations and when we estimate resources, and we say, okay, you know what, this may happen, let's put away money, we're actively accepting that these risks are, they may happen, and, there's nothing that we can really do, and you know what, let's just put away money just in case it does happen. That's what we're really saying, though.
But CJ, in order to mitigate risks, you also need to have money to do that.
True.
So where do you put that money, or those, estimates of how much it might cost to mitigate risks that you encounter?
Those do go into the risk register as well. They go into the risk register, and they would go into the risk report. And you'll see as we get to determine risk responses, where we say, okay, these threats we're going to actively or passively accept. These threats will mitigate, and then we'll actually put the cost for it. And they still end up in the bucket, but there is when it's just like you have contingency reserves. You have just reserves, right? And then you have contingency reserves for the work package. And then you have contingency reserves for the individual activities. And as you keep getting deeper, then you'll see some of those reserves are going to be for just money. If it happens, pay for it. Some of those reserves are actually going to be used immediately to conduct activities to minimize the probability and or the impact of the risk. Does that make sense? It's like we're now going, it's peeling the layers of the onion back. Yes, no, maybe so. Okay. What I'm describing to you is on the exam. See, in the application of it, it kind of means the same thing. I get that, but on the exam, they're going to be very specific about the fact that if we put aside money, it's just active acceptance, right? But if we take some action, right, they won't even talk about the fact that you put away money for it. They're just going to assume that it's paid for. But they have to describe the fact that you're taking some action. Then we're talking about mitigation. All right, so that's going to be the driver for the exam.